Hello and welcome to Swords and Starships Channel. I am Garrett, and this is a review of Season 3, Episode 1 of the Orville New Horizons. So this is going to be a mostly this is a spoiler-free review. I will be just giving kind of the broad strokes of the setup of the episode. So if you don't want to know absolutely anything, stop watching the video. I hope you watch it. It's a really excellent opener to the new season, but I will try to keep it low on spoilers. So I'm just going to jump right in. I'm a refugee of the utter destruction and vandalization of Star Trek, driven by Paramount Plus and their machine and Alex Kurtzman and their ilk. There's a lot of bad, dystopian, miserable writing that is utterly trashing and destroying all of the wonder and beauty that was once Star Trek. And in the wake of seeing something I used to love so much turned into a garbage heap of mindless action and special effects, it was actually Gary Nerdrotic, hat tip to Nerdrotic YouTube channel. Check out Gary over there. Subscribe to his channel. It's excellent. He recommended the Orville. Now, I dismissed the Orville for a long time because, it was launched as a parody of Star Trek. And at the time, there were no new Star Trek series since Star Trek Enterprise years ago. And I was not interested in seeing a parody of Star Trek. I just wasn't. It wasn't that I don't want anyone to make fun of something I love. I mean, that's fine. Star Trek is easy to parody. I just didn't think that would be entertaining. There was also a weird thing I noticed too in the trailers. It looked like the show couldn't figure out whether it was actually a space adventure show or actually a parody. It's like the show had an identity crisis. In season 1, I think that's actually true. The first couple episodes do have an odd cross between joking parody but also serious science fiction. So, anyhow, that's why I dismissed it. But in the darkness of long years of seeing Star Trek destroyed, Gary's recommendation that the Orville was actually real Star Trek, it's actually a show like Star Trek The Next Generation used to be, and Star Trek The Original Series used to be, thought, what the hell? I'll give it a shot. So I watched the first 2 seasons, and on the whole, yeah, pretty amazing, pretty beautiful, pretty excellent writing. It is a classic, by the numbers, down the middle Star Trek setup for a show. It's set in a different fictional universe that is pretty much mirroring all of the things that made the Star Trek universe beautiful. A kind of optimistic view of the future, a planetary union of planets, of species working together, a daring captain and his crew that go on adventures every week exploring space just for the joy of exploring space. I mean, it's got all those beautiful hallmarks. First half of this first season was a little bit too much parody, but they kind of wound down on the parody. It's still a lot of good Seth MacFarlane humor. Seth MacFarlane being the creator, showrunner, and star of it. He plays Captain Mercer. Um, the comedy's pretty good, I have to say, and it got less silly as And when I say silly, I don't mean like I like funny. I like characters making fun of themselves or pointing out odd things about their situation. I just don't like it when it feels like it's breaking the fourth wall. What I mean by that is when it seems like the show is making fun of itself as a show. Kind of like how Deadpool is kind of winking at the camera and making fun of the fact that he's this oddball superhero. Sometimes parody can feel like that. I think that's one of the problems people have with the modern Marvel Cinematic Universe is that it was clever one-liners and cool jokes in the midst of a generally serious story, and it's kind of morphed into just a lot of clever one-liner jokes all the time, and it starts to not take itself seriously. So that was kind of my issue with the first half of season 1. But that's actually cleaned up a lot, and by season 2, it's pretty much just a rock solid uh, science fiction adventure show that has great lines of levity. And it's funny because the new Star Trek Discovery STD, and Star Trek Picard, and what's the other one? Strange New Worlds. I mean, they have these dumb, plucky little lines all the time that are meant to be funny, and often they just come across as rude or annoying, or haha, I'm supposed to laugh. Seth MacFarlane, say what you want about Seth MacFarlane. He's great at comedy, and he really does have great, he never misses an opportunity for a situation in the show, while being taken seriously, to also have the characters joke about it in a way that, is believable and realistic, and it's funny. So I love that about it. It's actually doing well what, you can do. And Star Trek has always had moments of levity. It has to. It's a show that's meant to bring you ultimately joy. Not only joy, it's also meant to bring you real challenge, real conflict, and real stories of overcoming odds, learning lessons, dealing with moral crises. But at the end of the day, there's a beautiful thing about Star Trek, which is the original series, the original 5. You settle into it, and there you are. So Orville does all that. So that brings us to season 3. So the question a lot of fans of Orville probably have of the first 2 seasons, because it has been on a break, is the new season and as good as the first 2? Has it slipped in quality? I have good news to report. It's better. It is absolutely better. All of the special effects have been upgraded. There's much more detail in the ship. It is it is 10x more beautiful than it was in the first 2 seasons. All the characters are just, some of the uniforms are just look a little crisper, a little sharper. And the story is just humming right along. It's excellently paced, well acted. It's just fantastic. So the first episode of season 3 is called Identity. Wait, hold on. Let me check that. I think I might have that wrong. I'm thinking of a different episode. Sorry about that. Episode 1, Electric Sheep. My apologies. I was actually thinking of a really good 2-parter episode in season 2 of Orville, Identity, parts 1 and 2. I will say this, spoilers for season 1 and 2. If you have not seen season 1 and 2, don't listen to this review, because I'm going to pick up where the story picks up, and it will spoil some key things in season 1 and 2. So you have been warned, spoilers for season 1 and 2, but I will keep the review spoiler-free for season 3, episode 1. So Electric Sheep picks up after the events of season 2, in which the race of artificial intelligence robots, beings called the Kaylon, have begun a conflict, have basically decided to exterminate all organic life in the galaxy. It's heavy, I know. So we pick up with Isaac, who is one of these Kaylons, who chose to switch sides. He's defected, and he helped humanity and the Union defeat the Kaylon in their attempt at attacking Earth. So we pick up with Isaac on the Orville, and he's now on our side, but it's not been an easy transition. So the episode begins with a pretty amazing action sequence, and I rolled my eyes a little bit at the ending of the action sequence, because they did a thing shows do sometimes, where what you think you're seeing is not what you're seeing. That's all I'll say about it. It was a bit of an eye roll until, in the fullness of the episode, it became actually really apparent how important and impactful that scene was. And so I actually ultimately just really liked it. One word about the special effects I want to say, because the special effects in this season are top notch. space, the planets, the look and feel of the ships, the costumes, the corridors, just everything is sharp, it's beautiful, it's clear. If you watch Star Trek Strange New Worlds or Star Trek Discovery or Picard, you will also see special effects that are very sharp, very clear. Picard definitely slipped a lot, but you will see good-looking special effects. But there is a big difference. There is such a big difference, and I encourage you to compare. In the new Star Trek series, they use special effects the way sort of Marvel movies and, frankly, cartoons. No disrespect to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I mean, they use it in this sort of jangling keys way of like, oh, look at all the pretty colors. Oh, look at how pretty that is. Look at how exciting that explosion was. That's kind of how the new Star Trek uses it. The Orville, by contrast, uses the special effects to show you wonder. That's what I love about how they use it. And the differences are subtle. It has something to do with the way they show explosions, the way the camera is behaving in these CGI shots of, a ship in orbit of the Earth and the clouds going over the continents. There's just such a difference. It's like one show, the new Star Trek STD, is just showing you great looking animations of, I guess, space. Yeah, that's what space would look like. Orville gives me the feeling that the original 5 Star Trek series gave me, which is they're trying to show me space and exploration for real. They're trying to show me how beautiful it really is. And there's an artistry to how Orville uses, there's a sense that there is a camera, number one. Battlestar Galactica did this beautifully. The camera has a position in the shot and it's moving. And there's a sense that it isn't just CGI splashed on the screen. It's like, no, we're imagining that a camera is filming this shot. And that gives it a real authenticity and beauty. So it's just a beautiful show. Also, what creators choose to make the CGI focus on is a big factor. What are they actually interested in showing you? I would argue that STD and Picard are really interested in showing you flashy whiz-bang explosions. They're really interested in showing you people being decapitated, vaporized, phaser bolts. Phaser bolts. They're really interested in showing you just, massive scale battles with just, things flying everywhere with really no earned reason for the epic level and scale of the battle. It's like they're showing you shiny objects is what it is. In Orville, it's like they choose to focus on just that beautiful contour of the ship and all the little details of the hull and the plating. You know why? Because that's what science fiction fans like. We're interested in the ship and how it works. We don't just want to see it as this pretty CGI picture. We want to see it as a ship that works, that has a design that's actually, you could believe, functions in space. Like, we want to see that. And so when we're orbiting a planet, we don't just want to see all the pretty colors of the clouds. We want to see something that tells us a story about the planet. There's a great shot where the Orville is leaving Earth, and you see the Aurora Borealis over planet Earth, and it's gorgeous. Now, what I love about that shot is that that's a real thing. That's a real thing you would be able to see if you were in orbit of Earth, and it would be breathtaking. I can only imagine. That's the point. I can only imagine. This show has an opportunity to show me something that at this time I can only imagine. That's the proper use of these beautiful special effects, and that's how Orville uses it, to tell you a story about Earth. Wow, if you were in orbit, you would be able to see this from space. Beautiful. The STD version of that would be like, I don't like the color of that Aurora Borealis. Let's do something more interesting. Have a comet tail going by. People like comets. Just, You don't have to agree with me. I just think that's the sort of mentality of the, let's just say, not talented people writing that. Now, I know I'm spending a lot of time comparing Star Trek to Orville. It's important because there is a lot of talk right now from the shills of Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, and STD, where people are trying to make this claim. They're trying to claim that Star Trek fans who don't like these shows are only upset because they're toxic fans and they don't understand that Star Trek has always been progressive and Star Trek has always dealt with social issues and Star Trek has always been about social justice and blah, 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 blah. And these knuckle-dragging fans just don't understand that. Or they're just nerds who are just so obsessed with the continuity, they don't want to hear any new stories. They don't want to see anything new. They just don't understand. Let me explain something. Orville, Star Trek, okay, this is a canard. It's a bunch of bullshit. Star Trek has not always been progressive. What Star Trek has always been is a show about stories in the future, which tell interesting, self-contained stories that can be analogous to things we are experiencing in our own time. They don't just shoehorn topical election issues of 2022. They don't just shoehorn them into the future, which is exactly what Strange New Worlds does in one particular scene. And they present nuance. And the other thing, too, is that Star Trek originally would present a complex moral issue as a complex moral issue, meaning both sides had weight. Both sides had things they were right about and things they were wrong about. And often it was not easy to determine what the right course of action was. The new Star Trek, the moral debates amount to one side is right, one side is wrong. The side that is right is obviously right and has to figure out a way to virtue signal and scold the other side into embarrassment and admission that they were wrong. And that's basically it. It's the Orville deals with themes that could be described as progressive, moral issues that you could argue have a progressive element to them, but they're presented the right way, which is as a complex moral issue in which all sides of the issue have some weight to them. And even the side that, we may more obviously disagree with still has a reason for the case they're making. So the main thrust of Season 3, Episode 1, Electric Sheep, is that Isaac, who is effectively a member of the enemy race of artificial machines that are attempting to wipe out humanity, is also a crew member on Orville. So there are many of the crew who blame him for the actions of his race in attacking and pursuing the destruction of Earth and all of our allies. So there's members of the crew that, frankly, want him off the ship or want him dead. They think he should be punished for being a murderer. There's an amazing moment when someone has graffitied the word murderer over his lab. And that's kind of the story. I'm not going to get too much into the details. I will just say that they set up just such a brilliant set of complex. I mean, it's not just one thing. There are so many moral dimensions to the whole story. It's like, what if you had to work side by side with someone who was, a former member of a group of people that are attempting genocide against yours? What would you do? What if that being, who supposedly is not capable of emotion, were literally being harassed by the crew every single day and told, you know what, you're a murderer and you deserve to die? How would that being react? Is an AI capable of understanding the sort of the moral outrage, the moral indictment that it's receiving? So, there is one member of the crew in this episode who basically tells Isaac he's a murderer and he deserves to die. Now, if this were Star Trek, Strange New Worlds or STD or Picard, God forbid, here's how this would be presented. It would be presented as an episode about bullying. It would be an episode in which all the crew members that were bullying Isaac, they would be bullies. They would be one-dimensional jerks who were bigots. There'd be at least a couple like side characters, like extras, that were just pure rotten to the core bigots. They just get off on bullying people. I swear that's exactly what it would be. And there'd probably be like one principal character, I'm just being charitable here, that would have some nuance, some reason to feel the way they do. And most of the episode would be about how awful it is that in this day and age there are still such terrible people who do such terrible things. And, the resolution for the bullies would probably be a range of options from one of them gets what they deserve, they get killed in some stupid accident and they get sucked into space, or they're browbeaten into acknowledging what bigots they are. Something like that. I mean, they kind of do this like almost like the old Grimm's tales, where it's like, oh, the person with the rotten core gets what they deserve. And that would sort of be the threat. And most of the ending would be the characters crying and apologizing to the character and telling them how sad they are that bullying happened to them. And they'd be freaking almost looking into the camera every time they delivered a line about how bullying was such a terrible part of human culture and it should never return. That's how the new Kurtzman Trek would handle this issue. Fortunately, we're not watching Kurtzman Trek. We are watching the Orville. It is written by a group of writers led by Seth MacFarlane who are excellent. And they present moral complexity on every single side of the issue. I would argue the worst actor, meaning the character that you could argue is the most villainous in the episode, is a main character. And that character, even though it's pretty obvious this character is being cruel and is in the wrong, the character is never presented without some level of complexity to what they're feeling and why they're doing it. I mean, effectively, the reason Isaac is being essentially hated by the crew is that, his race of machines is attempting to wipe out all life. I mean, all organic life. And he did have some participation in the battle at first. Before he switched sides, he did help take over the ship and kill a lot of crew members. And so these crew members are angry that people they loved, colleagues, family, and friends, have been murdered by these robots. And they hold Isaac, with some justification, responsible. And some of them feel he's a murderer who never got, properly charged. And instead, he's been rewarded. He's now a member of the crew. Captain Mercer, played by Seth MacFarlane, brilliantly navigates in this story. There's one great moment in the episode where he kind of admits that, you know what, I don't know if it's the right decision to have Isaac aboard, but he may be our only hope to stopping his people. And, he kind of makes one great argument about we can show that humanity values life even when our enemies don't. I mean, that's just beautiful. There's never the suggestion that the viewer needs to be lectured to. There's never the suggestion that the viewer's take on this is right or wrong, ever. If you side with the people that are telling Isaac he's a murderer, the show implies that that's probably not the best way to look at things, but it never presents the case as though you should feel bad, like you're part of the problem if you have that take. It's like, no, I mean, on some level, there's an element of truth to what the people harassing Isaac are doing. I mean, they're harassing him because they view him as a murderer, and to some extent, he was complicit in those crimes. On the other hand, they managed to show the humanity of this AI as he navigates it with such finesse. I cannot overstate this. In STD, just listen to the way characters in the new Star Trek talk to each other. It is some of the dumbest, most surface layer dialogue you'll ever hear. They literally just exposition all over the place. They state all the things that they're feeling all the time. There's no nuance to their. Compare that to Orville. In the Orville, here you have Isaac, who is effectively a being without emotions, who supposedly cannot feel the sting of any of the mean, nasty things people are saying to him. I mean, someone says he deserves to die, and what's brilliant about it is he kind of just quietly receives the information and doesn't react. It is amazing to me how much emotion from this character they are able to convey. He has, I'm assuming you've seen the show at this point. He's got a metal face with two eyes, no facial features, so he has no ability to show expression. It is amazing to me that just through the mannerisms of the actor and just through the quiet spaces between the dialogue, they are able to show effectively the emotion, or at least get you wondering, is he feeling this? How much of this is he feeling? I think he's feeling this. Oh, I love that. I love a science fiction show that makes you think, invites, no, not makes you. That's the wrong way to word it. Invites you. This show invites you to think. It invites you to wonder. It invites you to feel, really feel, feelings that are earned, not, I'm so honored to serve with you. You are the very best friend I've ever had. Ugh. No, this is a show that tells a real story, and it's a story that hits hard. It is a hell of an opener to the first season. So the main through line is this conflict between the Kalon and the Union, and specifically Isaac's role in switching sides and at one point being complicit in the Kalon invading Earth, and the fallout. It's basically an episode about the fallout, the emotional fallout of all of that. And there are some real stakes in this episode. Um, it I mean, it really does explore the dynamics. It explores the fallout of this from every angle, from the lower crew decks all the way up to the senior officers, even to, Dr. Finn, who dated Isaac at one point. They even show how she's wrestling with this. I dated someone who arguably is a murderer, even if he's a repentant murderer who's trying to help us stop the destruction of our species. Even so, it's like, how can I reconcile that this was someone I felt affection for? And then her two sons, Marcus and Ty, they viewed Isaac as a father figure, but now they have really tough emotions to wrestle with because they've seen his people as monsters, attempting to murder them. And if you watched the two-part episode in season 2, Identity, which is just powerful and amazing. I mean, it's up there with Best of Both Worlds and Star Trek Next Gen for me. Really good. So it's totally on par with Best of Both Worlds, I would say. Identity, parts 1 and 2. They really established it. These kids, could you view a robot as your stepfather? I mean, what if you felt feelings for that stepfather, but that stepfather was an emotionless robot who told you to your face, I can't feel anything for you? Man, it's just great how these characters wrestle with that. And now add to that, oh, and his people are hunting us to extinction. Whoa. So rest assured, Orville, the special effects are great. The acting is great. The writing is next level, and they're advancing the story in a great direction. They've upgraded the ship. They've upgraded the look and feel of everything. It's beautiful, and it is truly original series Star Trek quality writing. It explores human nature. It does it with nuance and grace and finesse. It does it with quiet moments as well as heated arguments. It does it with a captain who is not there to preach at people. I just can't say that enough. Captain Mercer's role on the ship is not to scold people or berate them or to be the moral arbiter of everything. He is a captain, he is a leader, and he is wrestling with this alongside his crew, but he's got to navigate it, and he's got to make the call, and he has to. This is a great episode for what a Star Trek captain really should be, which is not just a for lack of a better term, military leader, not just a maritime leader, but a moral leader, and even a moral teacher to some extent, who teaches through example and through setting a high standard and through treating with respect even crew members that are in the wrong. That I think is one of the key things. Captain Mercer, Seth MacFarlane's Captain Mercer, never talks down to his crew members, even when he believes they are in the moral wrong. It is a beautiful thing to watch because it shows you that there is more to leadership than just thinking you know what's right in every situation. And there is more to leadership than either lecturing or browbeating your subordinates. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to see this character. There's a great line. Oh, I'm trying to remember. Well, anyway, watch it. It's great. If you're feeling like me, you're horrified at where things have gone in modern sci-fi. Everything is so dystopian and nihilistic and dark and depressing and hopeless. If you watch my previous video, you know that there's a chance we may have actually just discovered the first sentient AI. That would be the Google chatbot Lambda, which one of the engineers leaked based on a conversation that this engineer had with Lambda. This may be a sentient AI. I don't know. Check out the video if you want to explore that more. But my point is, this is an episode that is really commenting on something that may be a very real situation that humanity is faced with in the future. And what I love about it is that it's not just all sunshine and rainbows. It's dire. It is a dire threat in this story. The Kaylon represent a dire threat to humanity. Optimism in storytelling does not mean that there aren't dire threats or tragedy or terrible things happening. It means it's a story about how people overcome those things and how we rise up to the challenge and we discover within ourselves the better parts, the better angels of our nature. I mean, that is great. So, just as a sci-fi series episode, I give this a 10 out of 10. As an Orville episode, 10 out of 10. It's an excellent opener. I'm very excited for what this season is going to unfold. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comment section what you think about what you heard and what you liked about the episode. And I kept it pretty light on spoilers. Everything I mentioned was pretty much just the setup to the episode. But if you felt like I went too far, let me know, and I'll be as careful as I can be. So keep watching Orville. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you out there.